Hello, hello. Hello, welcome. How is everyone doing? Good night. Sounds good. I will see what I can do for you. I will see what I can do. Hello, hello. How is everyone's Monday? Let me fix myself. I see one of our guests are here. Make sure you share the live. Get the other one. How was everyone's Monday? How was everyone's weekend? Hello, hello, welcome. How is everyone? Just gonna wait a few more minutes. Hello, welcome. How was your Monday? Make sure you share the live. It's going to be a great conversation tonight. It's been a minute. Missed ya. I did not get a tan. Nope. It could be the lighting. I'm in a different room, so it could be that. Just gonna wait a few more minutes and then we'll get started. Make sure you share the live. It's gonna be a good one tonight. How was everyone's weekend? Appreciate it, thanks. Make sure you share it. Everyone that has just joined in. Hello, hello, welcome, welcome. Make sure you share the live. An amazing conversation tonight. Hello, good evening, good night, good morning. Welcome to All Things Pan. I am your host, Danielle George. You guys were listening to Women in Pan, composed and written by Mark Loquan, and the little solo you heard there was from Natasha Joseph. So, on that note, for those that are new on this page, we talk to panists, pan arrangers, tuners, pan enthusiasts about all things pan. And on that note, it's a very good song. On that note, I would like to invite our two guests. This works. Perfect. Good evening. Hello.
Hi, Daniel. Hi, Maria.
Hi.
Hi,
How are you
everybody.
guys doing?
Cool.
We're doing good.
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 I'm gonna fix something on my end. All right. Everyone's good? You had a good weekend?
Yep.
Yeah.
Going all right. Going all right. Fighting
How about your Monday?
fighting a cold.
How was your Monday?
Busy.
Monday blues.
Yeah. Well, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to carve a little hour to talk about your guys' project. For those that don't know Maria, do you want to kind of tell us a little about yourself?
Um, well, I'm a photographer. I've been in the main doing photography of aspects of cultural heritage in Trinidad and Tobago, and even spreading it a little further in the Caribbean. Now, in these last couple of years, well, right before the pandemic, and it got interrupted. So I'm looking forward to picking that back up next year. And then I've been doing a lot of filmmaking work with Mark in the last 2 years. All pan-related projects. First of all, a project I directed for him called My Home, which I'm sure you've perhaps seen. It was a great project, a pandemic project. Actually, Mark and I have had a real pandemic working relationship, which has been very, very, very fruitful. So my filmmaking in the world of pan really started with My Home, and then it went on to this Better Tomorrow series that Mark had conceived that began with Kareem Brown. And when he approached me, we didn't know what it would be, and it ended up being a 6-part series. And the same thing with Women in Pan. When he approached me, we weren't too sure what it would be, and it ended up being a 10-part series, which is, I know we're going to talk a lot about that. But so my work really is in photography and filmmaking, all in the sphere of the cultural world that we live in.
Nice. So how did you kind of figure out that filmmaking, photography kind of resonated well with Pan? Did you fall into that or?
Oh, well, I know, and I've been around pan since I was a teenager. So I mean, I played pan. I started to play pan when I was 15 years old, um, and I was fortunate to be, around people like Ray Holman at that stage of my life. And I played in Panorama as soon as I came back from university, and my whole my whole life has always been around music from the time I was very, very small, like literally just walking around at 4 or 5. I've always had a musical instrument since that age.
Nice.
So it's only natural for me when I took my photography, and of course the camera has filmmaking capacities today, and I was always interested in that aspect of how to, how to use it in a filmmaking way. Um, and so I just very quietly experimented with things for quite some time now, short
Yeah.
videos and stuff that I posted to my page. Um, and and it just evolved to a deeper and deeper interest. And then actually, I started to work with Etienne Charles back in 2015 in a major way.
Yeah.
He's a major collaborator in my professional life and in my, artistic life. And so that really, working with Etienne, traveling with him to document research projects of his, is what pushed me to have to be versatile, to do both photography and video for these projects.
Right.
So it was not easy at first, to actually be able to do both, because you're constantly switching settings on the camera. It's a dynamic environment, you know. But so that's been the learning curve that I was on, and ATN is a
Right.
big part of of my stretching myself to do more and more video. And then these projects with Mark then took it to
Another
another
level.
another level again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you played pan. I seem to ask a lot of people this. What was your pan to play?
Well, I actually, when I was 15, I got a double tenor, which Jim St. Rose made for me. And, he's a great tuner. And the pans were made like really close to where I live, across the way in Pitty Valley and Simeon Road there. And, and then so that's what I played at school, because I used to just play like in the folk choir with my guitar and all of those kind of things and play pan and whatever was going on musically.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like in an in-between period at school where they had been a steel band before, and then it kind of didn't happen again. And so in my time at school, it was just really me on the pans. It wasn't actually a steel band.
Okay.
And then when I played in Panorama, I played the double guitar. That was with Invaders in 1989.
Okay. So if you were to play pan again, would you go to double guitar or double tenor?
I think no, neither.
What?
Actually, I also played the tenor bass. How could I forget? I played tenor bass with Silver Stars.
Okay.
When they first did their Parang and Steel, when that project first started.
Yeah. Wow.
I was in the first iteration of it, and I mean, I'm not any big pan player. I don't want to make myself. I mean, I could, get by and do enough, So I was not a frontline player, but I could hold my own. And so I learned
Mark,
kind of.
we got to get her back on pan.
What's that? Sorry.
We have to get you back on playing pan.
Yeah.
Next project.
But the pan that I would really love, if I had the time, the cello pan is my favorite pan. For the sound, I think the richness of the tone of that pan. Yeah. If I could play that pan in Panorama, I think that would be, quite ecstatic experience.
Okay. You heard that, Mark. So Mark, welcome back. I'm so glad to have you again. How are you? What have you been up to?
Making videos. but thanks for having me back, Daniel. It's been 4 or 5 months now. But
yeah.
I think the first time we were talking about the Kareem Brown series.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about the project A Better Tomorrow and how it came about, and the whole idea of the pandemic and all the turbulence going on and lifting each other up, and
yeah.
The Woman in Pan series was just a natural continuation. I mean, for me, the Woman in Pan song that I did 22 years ago kind of started it off where we saw a lot of women coming in the pan steel band itself, And before that, it was the conductors and the Pat Bishop and the music literacy and the judges and the adjudicators.
Yeah.
So back then I wrote about it, and I called Natasha. I didn't know Natasha, by the way, at that time. I just saw her Panas playing, and I said, "Wow, this girl is something else. Can you play the pan version of Woman in Pan?" And that was 22 years ago. So it's kind of like been there for quite some time building.
Yeah.
So it seemed like a natural extension to, after Maria and I did the Kareem Brown project. It's the project that I always wanted to do. And, I knew all 5 of these people, over the last couple of decades. And I think Maria and I sat down in a coffee shop one day and we went through all the, the skill sets that looking for, whether it's a conductor or a pan maker, tuner, arranger, leader of a band, ex-leader of a band, composer, and, all these other skills. And, believe it or not, these 5 women kind of encompass the whole thing, right? Teaching, education, and I just thought it was a neat project to continue. The Better Tomorrow theme of sort of telling the stories of people that really you see them now, but you don't see the journeys that they have gone through and
Yeah.
all the ups and downs that they've had to face. And I think some of these stories are quite inspiring. And
Mm-hmm.
I hope it has come across with a keen eye and insight of Maria and Carolyn and Attila Springer, that they have created this 10-part series that is put together in a way that we'll talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Hope it is inspiring to people to watch.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, how did you decide the five, which you pretty much answered, and what kind of inspired you to actually come in full circle to do a 10-part series?
Yeah, I don't think we knew at the beginning, Maria, that we were going to do a 10-part series, but um, I think we knew pretty much the woman we wanted to have, at the beginning, and um, certainly, well, Natasha was the first one that I would have worked with in the studio when she
Right.
would came into the Woman in Pan 22 years ago. But later on, it would have been Yuko Asada. She would have been transcribing a lot of the arrangements and stuff that I'd been doing over the years. Back in the, I don't know, late 2000s or something like that. And I would have met Vanessa with Golden Hands, and been involved with the Music Literacy Trust and watching the great work of Golden Hands and teaching the kids music literacy in the home, and going to music festivals and panorama, and so it was a great thing to see. And then
Yeah.
of course, Michelle, I think Maria suggested Michelle should have been part of this. How could we not have Michelle? And Michelle was, of course, you know captain of phase 2, winner of panorama, and one of kind of trailblazers here. And I used to meet Michelle in the Panyard when she arranged a few of my songs, and she had work. Um, so yeah, how could I forget that? And then Mia also been involved with, I would say, the latest out of all of them through the virtual steel band music and pannotation and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and working on those projects together, and he was the one conducting Woman in Pan that you just played when you started the program.
Yeah.
So it's good to see all these connections, But yes, it's
Yeah.
come full circle with those 5 people who I've worked with so closely over the years. So
Yeah.
it's so natural, actually.
Yeah, for sure. Before we continue, those that just joined, you're more than welcome to ask any questions that I may have missed. Put them in the question bubble down below. Another question I was going to ask you is the vision of Women in Pan. How did you decide how the interview process would go, where the cameras should be, how they should be highlighted in each series?
That's definitely.
Well, yeah. But actually, what I would before I come to that, to just answer part of what you asked Mark just now about the 10-part. Why was it 10 parts? Because with the 5 women, I felt when I thought about it, so we would do 5 in-depth interviews, which would be great, but they would be long form. It would have to be, because to do it properly with them, I felt that we had to do an hour-long interview,
Right.
and then I thought to myself, because of how the internet is today and how people consume content, that it would be great to come up with things that were shorter form.
Mm.
And I felt that I wanted to explore issues, and in fact, that these interviews would not only be biographical in nature, but that they would touch, the questions would be to really explore contemporary issues in the world of Pan.
Yeah.
And so that's how we ended up with 10 episodes, because we had like a sort of a pre-interview process with the 5 of them to find out what were the things that were the burning issues for them. What were the things that they felt that we should talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that, we arrived at 5 sort of meaty subjects that we could have these shorter episodes on. So we did, gender issues, leadership issues, which was very interesting. Music literacy. Um, we had Yuko as a pan builder and tuner, and I felt that this was a wonderful thing for us to look at specifically. And then, of course, the issue of panorama, and that that proved to be a very, very substantial episode. So I felt that this was an important contribution of this series to actually create these thematic programs as well as the interviews. So that very quickly turned 5 into 10, and next thing you know, we had this mammoth project ready on our hands, But I think I'm really glad though that we did that, And then in terms of the question you asked about, for me, about how we would film them, it was always going to be, well, how could we frame them with pans in the background? Because pans are so beautiful visually. There's such a reflective surface. It's really, really beautiful. In fact, it's one of the reasons I love to photograph pan is because the instrument itself is such a beautiful instrument to capture,
Yeah.
So I had this idea about we needed also to have a controlled environment for sound-wise. And so we thought about asking UTT whether we could use the pan studio so that we could arrange, because I saw a video that Mia had shown me that they had shot up in the pan studio, and there was this wall of red pans in the background, and it was so beautiful, So that's how we chose that particular environment, because we could kind of move the pans around and create the kind of background that we needed. The other very big consideration for filming this was to decide on the format of the interview, because like, for example, the episodes, Attila does not appear in them. The episodes are just sound bites that are strung together in a story from all the things they said, and it does flow and you can follow it. But for an interview to really be successful, you have to have the interviewer. It has to be presented. So I really wanted to present it in that more formal sense, and like a TV style interview, not a more informal one like we are doing here now, which is great, but each one has its own place,
Yeah, exactly.
And we knew that we were doing these interviews with a real sense of posterity, that here we were going to commit something to the record, to the archive, something that would stand, that could be referenced for a long time to come,
Yeah.
So the decision, therefore, was that Attila had to be on camera and actually present the interview, Actually, we had to have like an opening where she says, "Hello, I'm Attila Springer, and this is Women in Pan." And so it's properly presented. So that meant we had to have like 4 cameras,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was a big, from a production standpoint, it was just a skeleton crew of us. And, I had someone who really, Milton Katz, he really was very helpful to me by making 2 of his cameras available. So it helped to, contain the cost. Otherwise, it would have been that much more expensive, So, yeah, it was, we kind of stretched the capacity of what we could do,
Yeah.
But also to make an hour-long interview engaging throughout, we needed to be able to have camera angles to cut to, Otherwise, it's good, but you're more likely maybe in 5, 10, 15 minutes into the interview to lose maybe the attention of some people, know. So we were really trying to give it the highest production values we could within the resources that we could put together for it,
Yeah.
And then, of course, to have the audio recorded really well, because as you know, half of what you see is what you hear.
Yeah.
And in fact, sometimes it's more than half,
Yeah.
So so we had Cedric Smart, who is one of our best sound recorders in Trinidad, and very, very experienced in the filmmaking world, and he did a great job because the audio is really, really good. You know, so it could stand alone as a podcast, you know, if as just an audio file as well.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, so I think that does that answer that answers the question you had about how we decided to film it.
To film it. Can I say a couple things? The first three
Sure.
that you mentioned, like the gender, what was the other one? Panorama and
Leadership
leadership. I
style.
felt those needed to be a little bit longer because it was just getting good. I was like, no.
Yeah. I know it was just, you know, it was so much to do.
Yeah.
You know? And the thing is, the way that we did it was we did the full length interview, and then we sat down because they were each interviewed separately, so they had no idea what the other person said on these thematic questions.
Okay.
You know, I mean, if I had it to do again, and we wanted to produce a thematic series, we'd probably do it a bit differently, and we would get longer answers, and we would be able to do something, you know, even meatier.
Yeah.
So those were just, and I think it's good though that people want more rather than want less. So
yeah. So I'm hearing Woman in Pen like season 2.
I don't know about that.
We have a good template for the future now, right? So.
Yeah, we have a. Yeah, there won't be season 2 next year. Well, I mean, I don't know what the future holds, but if right now we have some other fish to fry in the more immediate term. So, because there's just so much to be done, you know.
Right.
So I'm sure that we would come back to Women in Pan, but not right away. Would I be correct in saying that, Mark?
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on. There's a lot.
Yeah, there's some other stuff we need to get done first before we would come back to another season of it.
Okay. I tried, guys. I tried.
The thing is, it's just a few of us. You know, it's a real small operation.
Yeah. Well, if there's anyone watching that would like to help so we can make this second series happen, please let them know.
Okay. Tell them to walk with their checkbook.
How did you guys decide what topics to touch on, or did that just come out naturally?
It came out of the well, I had some things, like I knew for sure we were going to discuss Panorama and that's why it's the most, you know, comprehensive of the episodes, because I feel as a photographer who has been photographing Panorama for more than 10 years now, seeing the issues in Panorama, knowing that there's so much old talk that people just, you know, everybody is shooting off their opinions. And I felt I wanted to do something that was really a respectful critique of Panorama, you know, a respectful way of looking at the whole thing. And it's so important to be able to do that without anybody feeling attacked. And, you know, it's not about that. It's that, you know, what are the best ideas that we could bring, you know. So that one was a strong thing for me. For Mark, music literacy was on the table from day one, you know.
Okay.
And Mark could perhaps speak to that a little bit, you know, about the importance of music literacy throughout the whole Better Tomorrow series. Mark?
Yeah, I mean, that was a really important subject that I wanted to see captured as part of the whole forward movement in Pan, so to speak. And, you know, I guess the work of the Music Literacy Trust, which I, you know, co-founded or founded back in the early 2000s, and seeing the necessity of preserving, you know, our music and scoring the work of our hands and things like that, which was done with, you know, Jit and Ray Holman and, you know, Ken Fillmore and others. And we did that. So I mean, with that background of the music literacy trusts, plus seeing the progression of people like Kareem Brown that we covered, the whole intimacy with music scores and Pat Bishop and Lydian Steele, and how that adds to the whole ammunition, so to speak,
Yeah.
of being part of a better tomorrow. That was an important theme for me. So I think that was probably the only prerequisite, Maria, that I had. I mean, otherwise it
Yeah,
was
Mark said whatever you do, you have to do something.
afterwards, Maria, that's what you have to do, but otherwise, it's music
Yeah,
literacy.
and
Yeah.
actually, I in a really wonderful way, and I suppose naturally so, these 5 women were all tied to Mark really through music literacy in some form or fashion. And
Right.
so it was a real natural link. And because each of these 5 women, this is a big part, music education is a big part of each of their lives, So that was something that was clear. And then in terms of the other subjects, well, of course, you're going to do women in pan. We have to talk gender. We have to talk about what are the gender issues. And
Yes.
And I thought it was wonderful that we had such a age range, between Michelle as, the established, most experienced of all of them in the pan world, her pan life beginning in the 1970s, around 1980, all the way up to the present. And so Michelle brought a certain depth and a certain perspective that I think a younger generation today isn't so aware of, unless maybe they've heard their parents or grandparents speak. They might actually take it for granted, just how things are today. In fact, so many steel bands, it's wonderfully refreshing to see how many young people and how many young women are, playing all the bands from the front line all the way back, So I think the gender one was a natural one, and I was really happy with that episode because people like Michelle and Natasha were able to speak to actual real lived experiences, Michelle relating how when Boogsy said the tune was "Woman is Boss," a man say, "Well, no woman is my boss," and one of the players walks out of the yard and says he's not here. And today a young person, you told them that, they'd be like, "What?" And all that Natasha went through as well. Natasha said, nobody knew her name. They wouldn't let her behind a pan,
Yeah.
But she persevered, So I think that that was it's good, important context, for the progress that has been made to have some sense of where things had come from. And I mean, Michelle was able to talk about her grandmother, and her grandmother running a badge on who she did not want her son to be around this man learning to play the pan. So this is still in people's lived memory, and the history of pan is still short enough that these are very real things in the actual lived experiences of people today. It's not something way gone in the past.
Yeah.
And then, but the other ones were the leadership one. I thought was very interesting. To talk about leadership styles, because this is a big thing in the pan world. It's a very contemporary issue. Where leadership is a hot topic today in pan. Both in the administration of pan itself and within steel bands. So I think those were those choices sort of made themselves because they showed themselves to be the most contemporary ones that we could discuss. One of the ones I'm sorry we did not get to go into in depth was the whole question of innovation and trends, because we did discuss in the pre-interview phase, like I asked all of them about what were the trends that they felt they were seeing and were interesting, and they did discuss it, but it didn't end up being substantial enough, I felt, to make into an episode, you know.
Right.
So, but that is a subject, I think, one that we will tackle in other ways outside of women in pan, because it's a big, big issue,
It is.
all of technology and pan, all of the things, all of the current trends in the world of pan,
Yeah. And I think those 4 or 5 like major topics are something that can continuously be talked about, because
Yes.
there are big topics that need to be out there.
Yes, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think the whole question of Yuko as a builder and tuner, and that episode, I think was really important. The optics of it, to see a woman building and tuning, and to make that distinction in the public domain about building and tuning, because a lot of people just, when they go to Panorama, they see pans tuned by, Rich Kelman. And people just think, "Hey, tune the pan." Well, you have
Who
to
built it?
build that pan, And that distinction between builders and tuners, and not everyone who is a builder is a tuner, nor is everyone who is a tuner a builder.
Right.
So that's a subject that's really close to the heart of both Mark and myself as well, and the whole question of innovation in pan building and tuning, and everything to do with the pan. In terms of how it sounds.
Yeah.
So those I think that Yuko episode, even though it was just her, it was important.
It was very important. Yeah.
Yes, and it made us find a group of young women called Women of Steel.
Yes.
Who are currently, and I went to meet them, and so that was such a wonderful thing that came out of the project, and Kai Codrington, who was working with them, and so it was another wonderful way to be in touch with the Codrington family, because his dad was part of the Kareem Brown series.
Yeah.
So
yeah, funny enough, I interviewed all those people you just mentioned, and the knowledge that they have is just mind-blowing.
Yes.
Yeah. From when you guys started this project, did you think it would end up to where it is now? Or did you guys have a totally other idea and it just kind of ended up where it is?
Then Mark, what do you think, boy?
I kind of no, I think this exceeded my expectations actually, because of course, I've worked with these 5 women, they transcribe my music, they arrange my music, they did different things. But I guess with the stories being told, that they're narrating the journeys that they have gone through, that not only me, but the pan world has gotten a flavor of the journey that they had to go through, and that kind of lends itself to telling you how resilient they are, and the sensitivity of what they've had to go through, and the experiences, how they've shaped the way that they look at things. So, and I find that very positive, and of course, working with them through various things before is one thing, but I mean, hearing their story and what they've had to go through, and all the things Natasha said about going to Panas and asking every night, can I play?
Yeah.
And you get obstacles, but I mean, you just get a much better people that have a light that shines on them, and I just find it exceeding the expectations from that point of view. Where you go to Maria and say, okay, put this together, but I mean, what I think we got is a well narrated, insightful story that is an hour long each, really, when you so I think in all Maria it was like 400 minutes or something like that.
Close to.
And this is a final series, and that's not even counting all the stuff that Maria has left out. But I think the 400 minutes is quite a complicated story. It was like 5 times 60, that's 5 interviews, and 300. 5 episodes of about 12 minutes each, 10 to 12 minutes each. So that's another. So I think that is, I think it was bigger, actually, than what we thought it would be from the beginning. I think it turned out to be a much bigger project, certainly for Maria, to
Right.
say, "Oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that." And in fact, we were even thinking of adding people. That was in the beginning, And I think looking back, it's probably a thing we didn't do. But I would say it's it turned out to be a much bigger project than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
But also it has come out on has been a lot of work has been going in by the team, by Maria and Carolyn, and and the whole team, just to make sure it comes out every week. Started September 9th, the last episode with Michelle, and that comes out this Friday, right? So yeah, we
I'm
don't want to
excited about that one.
see the end, right? We don't want to see it, but
Yeah.
it's actually the final episode of the 10-part series. Yeah, so to answer the question, it's a lot bigger than I thought it would be, and a lot better, a lot deeper insight.
Mm.
Very topical. What's going on? So I thought it was.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, interviewing all 5 women, did you guys learn anything new about them, or?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I wanted to take this opportunity to also really give kudos to Attila Springer, because doing the interviews, we had, it was a team of 3 of us, Carolyn, Taylor, Attila, and myself, who worked together. And we would have meetings and plan our stuff out. But then the game was all on Attila. You're sitting in front of the camera, you're looking at the camera, and you have, we did 5 interviews over 3 days, 2 a day, morning and afternoon. It was intense.
Oh, wow.
And so I knew, I felt for her that from the word go, I knew it was a big ask of concentration, to do that. And of course, it's not live, so we can't stop and start. And if, a mistake happens or somebody falters, it's not, we just, resolve that very quickly. But it was a lot. And as you know, from interviewing people, you have to really concentrate. You have to follow what they're saying. And then the magic of a great interview is the follow-up question from what someone has said, that can really turn the interview in ways that nobody could have anticipated with all the preparation in the world.
Yeah.
And so for me, the reason actually that I had reached out to Attila from the word go on this project was because she is Panjabi herself, and she does not play Pan, but she is somebody who has, loves Pan, knows Pan. And the interviewer needed to be someone who was coming with a lot of context,
Right.
coming with a lot of points on the compass, so that when somebody answers something in a certain way, you are not lost as the interviewer as to what they're referencing, or you know what I mean? Because so she brought that that context, she that knowledge, just that lived experience of Pan, and that really did matter, Otherwise, if you're just dealing with someone who's well prepared but not necessarily deeply knowledgeable on Plan, the interview could be
It's the disconnect.
Yes,
Yeah.
So I think that was, that really mattered, and it was really, I mean, Mark was there, very, very good reviewing things, giving comments, and so, I would send him stuff to look at, but the engine of it was really left to the 3 of us, to myself, and then once the interviews were done, Attila's hard work was over. Taylor, who worked very closely with me to, get each episode ready. Are we back? I think did we lose each other there? Hello?
I'm hearing you, but I'm seeing Daniel spinning.
Yeah. I don't know if she's having a connection problem. Because yeah. Are you back, Danielle?
We're back. We're back.
Okay. Yeah, so I was just saying, I don't know where you lost me, but Carolyn Taylor played a huge role once the interviews were over. Because I was actually editing the work myself, so I'm directing it. I was one of the cameras, and now I was editing. I needed another pair of eyes to review my edits.
Right.
You know, and so that was critical. And also just to give feedback, you know, she's a very good writer and, you know, an editor in the print world. Excellent editor from that standpoint. So she brought a certain rigor to the review of the episodes that I really valued.
Yeah.
And so it was a real, you know, the final outcome really benefited from the professional input of each of them together with myself, you know, and Cedric with that audio, you know. And then in terms of the camera work, you know, Merton Katz, who did the moving camera, and then Chad with myself. So that was it. That was our crew right there.
Bye. I apologize.
That's okay. There you go. You're back.
All
You're
right.
back. Yes.
I got some of it. I'm pretty sure everyone else heard, so that's okay.
Okay, good. Okay, fine. I'm not sure how that worked if once your connection went, everybody else's did.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but we'll continue. We'll continue. Knowing from where you started with Pan Maria to now, have you seen a change? Has it been stagnant? How has it been? How do you see Pan right now? Since you've been around it for so long.
What to tell you, boy? I don't know. I mean, I really love Pan. I love the sound and the feel of it, and I think I love that so many young people, really young people, are playing from the biggest band to the smallest single pan band. You know.
Yeah.
So I really see a lot of hope in Pan. For me, Pan is if we could really understand and grasp the power of Pan and the Panyard to be, you know, to unleash all of its potential for us. You know, it has such tremendous impact on the society, you know, beyond the people who actually just play the music. And I think we underestimate, you know, the power of the music to heal people of all kinds of things, you know. So I think Pan is one of those things that we actually really take for granted in a big way at a national level, you know, in terms of how the society views it. We like to, of course, say we are the inventors of Pan and all of these things, but it stays at a superficial level for so many people. You know? So for me, I mean, I'm very encouraged really by how many young people are. To me, the playing of the instrument is in safe hands. What is of more concern, I think, is the direction, and this is, I'm not saying this is aimed at Pantrinbago or anyone in particular, but that at a big national level in our minds, in the way that politicians think, in the way that people in the business community think, that we can really start to understand the importance of Pan to communities, how they can be part of the transformation of communities, how people can go there to learn not just pan, but other musical instruments and other things as well. I mean, a panyard is an incredible space.
Yeah.
And so many panyards are underutilized. And there are people from steel bands dying to be able to use their spaces more,
Right.
So for me, pan, I really believe in pan, and in the people who make music and make pan what it is, but it just needs it needs support beyond Panorama. We are too focused on Panorama. I love Panorama. I would never want to not have Panorama, but we have become too Panorama centric. I mean, there are things, thankfully, that are changing in that regard. So I'm not one of these naysayers kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I do think that that's where we need to focus, And I think if more people in the wider business community could understand, if they would just invest in the steel band around the corner from them, where they're seeing some pan racks parked up under a mango tree or behind somebody's yard. And if the businesses in that community would just invest in whether it's a single pan band or a small band or whatever is the size of the band, I think we would start to see, because we can't look to the state for every single thing. And we ourselves have to say, we want to make a commitment to this. And we believe in this and we understand its power. And we see the wonderful thing it does for the people who are involved in it. And, and for the wider community, all the people that go to relieve their stress on the Dragon Panorama,
Yeah.
So, and then I guess maybe, the one thing I would say before I go to Mark on this, I really am glad whenever there are things that pan is in the street, like the Lavender Steel Band Festival. Like when they had Pan and Powder the other day, and pan went in the street. And there is something powerful about pan in the street, in the road, moving pans, pushing pan playing, like Invaders have their Juve for Republic Day.
Yeah.
So, to me, all of these are the things that to me we must stay connected to all the time, because the power of pan gets unleashed in very, very magnificent ways when it is in those environments.
I agree. Mark?
I think the question was, how do I see the state of pan now?
Yeah.
Well, I guess if you look at it at a global level, pan is grown in many ways, right? So it's all over the world now, and so I guess my travels around South Africa and seeing so many bands in schools and Australia and seeing bands from Oman appear, they're playing in the Australia festival, being part of the European Steel festivals and so on. I mean, I could see how pan has really been accepted and welcomed by so many people. It's grown in all the universities, so many hundreds of bands in the US and so on. So I think from a high level, compared to, 50 years ago, I mean, pan has come a long way,
Yeah.
If you take the national level, I could relate, of course, to a lot of things that Maria is talking about, where there's a lot to be done. It's still early as an instrument.
Right.
And I think the sciences of this instrument, the acoustics, the materials, the analytics of it, there's a lot more to be done in that space, So I wish that could be organized, that even be part of a program that founds the basis of our education and a whole way,
Right.
for our universities and so on. No, but I think a lot of the thinking I have now is that, what can I do? What can I do to to really highlight some of these issues. And that's kind of some of the genesis of Better Tomorrow. It's like, how do we now shine a light on some of the people or the topics or things like that really stimulate thought or
Yeah.
action, or better yet, if it stimulates action, to say at the end of the day, we can do better. We can create a better tomorrow. I think the whole integration of pan with other instruments and orchestras just has been happening in little pockets here and there. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I like to see it as a mainstream instrument. In kind of part of a normal acceptance, as opposed to this kind of very abnormal circumstances. But I've just to see more and more of it being integrated. I like what we're doing with pan rocks, and
Yeah.
creating the orchestra with steel band. We tried something with my home and steel band and the brass big band. So I think it's happening. As I say, small quarters, but so in the mix globally, yes, we've grown a lot, but I think there are certainly areas that can be focused on when it comes to capacity building, when it comes to thinking beyond the uneven, when it comes to sciences, when it comes to acoustics, when it comes to, as Maria said, having the Panyard as this whole
Like a hub.
center of community building, which,
Yeah.
the part of the whole thing, and it's not just pan, but it's big, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of dots to connect in the whole scheme of things, that we can all play some part in, right?
Yeah.
So I sense my role here is to try to not fix it, but at least try to shine a light on some that need that attention.
And you're doing that for sure. You guys are doing that. I was going to ask you, as a pan community globally, what do you think we can do to help certain nations that are kind of struggling to get pan noticed?
Well, part of the connotation mission here was to provide two big avenues. One avenue was, well, if you want to get a band going in an area, well, what music do you play?
Yeah.
So it's good to kind of have music scores of songs that you like to play. So it's now starting, but that is part of the whole build up that's required, right?
Yeah.
The other part of it is learning about the history, everything that is associated with pan world, and the music, the education part of it, which was the life that is also there. And that's what, well, connotation is supposed to help with, right? So
Yeah.
it's in very early, evolving stages. But I mean, just fast forward, if people were to start, preserving their history, digitizing their stuff, putting it up in connotation, and everybody did that globally, and we kind of learn about each other, and we're connected, in that space. That is certainly one medium that could help with.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we get to that point where where pan can be just as popular as a piano. Who knows?
Hey, just show up and play, right? So
Exactly. Well, it's been an hour already.
no.
But I know, right? But before we leave, Maria, I always ask my guests, what is one thing that no one knows about you? What's one fun fact? And I always say keep it PG.
Sorry, what's that? Sorry.
Keep it PG, because kids will be watching this.
Well, I don't know. One fun fact. Well, not that nobody, but a lot of people today would know that I was once a DJ.
What?
There you go.
What was your DJ name? Is there videos?
Indigo. Indigo. That was my favorite color.
Okay. Are there any videos we can reference to?
No. But I even had my studio painted in that color at one time.
Wow.
Deep. Yeah. And I mean, when I traveled to West Africa for the first time, the first thing I wanted to do was buy indigo made, clothes, So yeah. So that's the fun fact.
I would not expect that at all. How long were you DJing for?
Good. About, I don't know, a good 10 years. So yeah, it was in my 20s, in my 20s into maybe very early 30s.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's a video out there somewhere.
Pack up all the speakers in my car and head off.
Oh wow. I'm gonna see if there's videos. I'm gonna look now.
No, there won't be videos. That was in the 90s.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, I want to, Mark, do you have another fun fact that no one knows about you?
Another one?
Another one?
Well, I love coffee, and unfortunately, a lot of the projects that we've started it has been born in a coffee shop. So every time I meet Maria, it's always very because we always start up with a cup of coffee and we end up with some big project. So,
how do you like your coffee?
Cortado, of the Cortado. That's good.
Okay. So everyone if you see Mark, now you know what kind of coffee to buy. Well, want to let everyone know what's going on this week, the last episode, where to watch it, how to watch it.
Sure. So yeah, the last episode, the 10th episode of 10 is this Friday, and it's the in-depth interview with Michelle Huggins-Watts, first woman to have ever won a Panorama title. That was in 2011 with Valley Harps. Do Something for Pan was the tune. And so her in-depth interview is on Friday at 7 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, and it's on Mark's YouTube channel. All the previous episodes are there, so if anyone joining hasn't seen any of it, you can go and check them out. There's a playlist with, all the teasers, all the episodes. And then, of course, now it will live on YouTube, so, it will be possible anytime in the future to reference those episodes again.
Yes. I've referenced the gender one quite a few times.
Actually, I told Mark, I said, I have a feeling that those episodes are going to end up being referenced a lot in teaching environments.
Yeah.
Whether both at tertiary and secondary level.
Yeah.
So, which will be wonderful. I mean, I'd be really happy that because it's great classroom material for discussion, to spark discussion, and the interviews will be there forever for research. Many people now, when they are researching, any one of those players, that substantial interview will be there.
That's why I think there should be a part 2.
Yeah, there.
Later. Give it a few years. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure. I hope to have you on again when you have another project, because I know it's coming.
Yes. Indeed. Indeed, it is. But thank you for having us. It was wonderful.
Of course. And make sure you follow them both. And I'm telling you, this Women in Pan series is amazing. You need to watch it. It's a must. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your week. I look forward to the rest of your projects and you getting back into DJing, because I want to see that.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you have anything else, just let me know, and I will love to have you guys on again.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.